Eric Young, wrestler. Jeremy Fritz, born December 15, 1979, is a Canadian professional wrestler and television personality. He is currently signed to WWE, where he performs on the Raw brand under the ring name Eric Young. He was also the leader of the stable Sanity. Young previously competed in WWE's developmental territory NXT, where he was a former NXT Tag Team Champion. He is perhaps best known for his 12-year tenure working for Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, TNA, from 2004 to 2016, where he was a one-time TNA World Heavyweight Champion, one-time X Division Champion, a three-time Legends/Global/Television/King of the Mountain Champion, and a four-time World Tag Team Champion, having held the NWA World Tag Team Championship twice with Bobby Roode, the TNA World Tag Team Championship twice, once with Kaz, and once as a member of the band with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, under the Freebird rule, and the only male to CO hold the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championship, winning the title with female wrestler ODB. He is also one of only 5 men to win TNA's Grand Slam Championship. Altogether, Young won 11 championships during his career in TNA, and is considered a TNA original. Professional wrestling career. Early career, 1998-2004. After graduating from high school, Young began training with veteran wrestler Waldo Von Erich in Cambridge, Ontario. After training for 10 weeks, he wrestled his debut match on October 14, 1998 in Benton Harbor, Michigan, facing his friend Suicide Sean Ball. He later received supplementary training from Scott D'Amore and Chris Kenyon. After 4 months, he had wrestled 10 matches and was consequently promoted to head trainer. After his training was complete, Young began working on the independent circuit. When wrestling infrequently, Young subsidized his income with a number of other jobs, including working in a pizza parlor, manufacturing brass horse harnesses and sand casting. During his time in the Ontario independent scene, Young also owned and operated the WrestlePlex training facility out of Cambridge. Notable wrestlers to come out of the gym include Jake O'Reilly, Ontario mainstay Crazy Steve, and World Wrestling Entertainment signee Sean Spears. On June 30, 2007, Eric secured the APWF Light Heavyweight Championship, defeating former 4-time NWA World Light Heavyweight Champion Luscious Rocky Reynolds in Oil City, Pennsylvania. Young appeared on WWE television 3 times. The first was on WWE Velocity. He teamed with future tag team partner Bobby Roode and were defeated by Chuck Palumbo and Johnny Stamboli. The second appearance was also on WWE Velocity, in which he was announced as Showtime Eric Young. He lost to Sean O'Haire. He appeared the next day on WWE Sunday Night Heat, losing a match to Val Venis. Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. Team Canada, 2004-2006. In January 2004, Young debuted in Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, TNA, as a member of Team Canada. He took part in the World X Cup event, defeating Jerry Lynn, Mr. Aguila, and Taiki Ishikari in a ladder match. Team Canada were a regular feature on Impact throughout mid-2004, feuding with the 3LIVE crew. On the October 15, 2004 Impact, Young and Bobby Roode defeated Christopher Daniels and Cowboy James Storm for the NWA World Tag Team Championship. They held the titles until November 7, when they were defeated by the 3LIVE crew, represented by Conan and BG James, at Victory Road. They regained the titles a month later at Turning Point on December 5, defeating BG James and Ron Killings. Young and Roode began feuding with America's Most Wanted in early 2005, and lost the NWA World Tag Team Championship to America's Most Wanted on January 16 at Final Resolution. Young began teaming with Team Canada member Petey Williams, and on April 24, 2005 they unsuccessfully challenged America's Most Wanted for the NWA World Tag Team Championship at Lockdown. After defeating Apollo and Sonny Sayaki at Hard Justice on May 15, Williams and Young challenged and lost to new NWA World Tag Team Champions The Naturals at Slammiversary on June 19. Team Canada began feuding with the Naturals and Lance Hoyt, with Young, Rude, and A1 defeating Hoyt and the Naturals at No Surrender on July 17. America's Most Wanted formed a loose alliance with the Naturals against Team Canada, with Young, Rude, Williams, and A1 defeating the Naturals and America's Most Wanted at TNA Sacrifice on August 14. After Williams renewed his pursuit of the X Division Championship, Young began teaming with A1 on a regular basis. At Unbreakable on September 11, Young and A1 faced America's Most Wanted, Alex Shelley and Johnny Candido, and defending champions the Naturals in a four-way tag match. Young was able to pin both Candido and Wildcat Chris Harris, but Team Canada lost the match after Chase Stevens managed to pin A1. At Bound for Glory on October 23, Young, A1 and Bobby Roode defeated the 3LIVE crew. After the match, their attempt to attack Conan was foiled by Kip James. Later that night, Team Canada stopped 3LIVE crew from saving Rhino from an attack by Planet Jarrett, and then helped Jarrett place Rhino in a casket which they had brought to ringside. As Team Canada and Planet Jarrett celebrated together, however, Team 3D entered the ring and, with the help of the now recovered 3LIVE crew, drove Planet Jarrett and Team Canada from the ring. Young, who had been standing atop the casket, was hit with a 3D by Team 3D. He was then thrown into the casket in the place of Rhino, who in turn stood atop the casket, celebrating his earlier victory for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship over Jeff Jarrett. As a result of the events of Bound for Glory, Young, Rude, and A1 faced the 3LIVE crew in a rematch at Genesis on November 13. Team Canada lost the match after Ron Killings pinned Young. The long-running feud between Team Canada and the 3LIVE crew ended at Turning Point on December 11 when Young, Williams, Rude, and A1 defeated the crew and Kip James, the 4LIVE crew, after Conan turned on his teammates. After the debut of TNA on Spike TV in October 2005, Young adopted a new character who was highly paranoid and afraid of almost anything and anybody. The character was introduced at the mock funeral staged by Planet Jarrett for Team 3D on the October 15, 2005 Impact, when Young was startled after Abyss crushed a box of tissues that were offered to him, and then speculated that the funeral parlor was haunted by a ghost named Katie, a tongue-in-cheek reference to the WWE Katie Vick storyline. The simplest things began to frighten Young, including the pyrotechnics that accompanied Team Canada's entrance. The character drew comparisons to South Park characters Tweek and Butters, and was often used for comic relief. During an interview about the World X Cup by Sokal Val during TNA Global Impact, Young stated, "Foreigners frighten me. They're from other countries, and I don't know how to deal with that." 2 weeks after Sting and Christian Cage defeated Jeff Jarrett and Monty Brown at Final Resolution, Sting made his Impact debut and announced his retirement. Jarrett wasted no time in pointing out that after one match with me, Sting took his ball and went home, and most of Planet Jarrett agreed with that assessment. Young, however, became convinced that Sting was not gone, and raised the ire of Jarrett and Scott D'Amore by frequently expressing that belief. In an attempt to persuade Young that Sting had left, Jarrett commissioned Alex Shelley to obtain footage of Sting at home with his children. However, this failed to allay Young's fears. He insisted that Sting would come back and get each of them. He would even go as far as to insist that the fellow Planet Jarrett members should not call him by his nickname Showtime anymore, due to Sting's catchphrase, "It's Showtime, folks." Young lost to Sting in the main event of the April 13, 2006 Impact. Young's paranoia did not always hinder his abilities during a match. He remained aggressive, even putting people through a table, would not hesitate to cheat, and was not afraid to capitalize on outside interference. He continued to be aided by Team Canada and Planet Jarrett. When Jim Cornette became the new face of management in TNA and said someone would be fired, Young was afraid it would be him. He was seen on Impact, holding up a sign in the crowd that read, "Don't fire Eric Young," as the fans chanted, "Don't fire Eric," along with him. On the June 29 Impact, Young wrestled like a classic fan favorite out of fear of being fired, and tried to prevent his fellow Canadians from doing anything underhanded. Cornette announced later that night Team Canada was now disbanded, but Young was more happy than upset because it was Earl Hebner who got fired, not Young. On the July 14th Impact, Team Canada lost an all-or-nothing match, their only chance to stay together, keeping Team Canada disbanded. Feud with Bobby Roode, 2006-2007. At Victory Road, Team Canada joined together in the ring one last time. After running through how he felt about each member, Scott D'Amore stopped at Young. He then blamed Young for their demise and made him strip of any Team Canada items. D'Amore then said that he believed Eric Young would still be fired as he was to blame for Team Canada's end. Young then remained in the ring after the others had left and began a secret petition with the fans to keep his job. He would soon start being announced as hailing from an undisclosed location. Young continued to be worried about his job/employment security, creating his own "Don't Fire Eric" t-shirts for sale. Young's paranoia proved warranted yet again as he was fired on the October 5th Impact. After being hit with a golf club by Larry Zbysko, causing Young to lose a "loser gets fired" match. Due to Zbysko's interference, however, Jim Cornette gave Young a chance to get his job back by facing Zbysko in a "loser gets fired" match at Bound for Glory. Young won and got his job back, avoiding the unemployment line in the process. On the Genesis pre-show, Young scored an upset by defeating Team Canada captain Robert Roode. This infuriated Roode, and on the following Impact, Roode cut a promo against Young. The match started a 6-month rivalry between the two. Young, then dubbed the Paranoid Pied Piper of TNA by announcer Mike Tenay, would soon be challenged to a bikini contest by Roode's associate, Ms. Brooks. Young accepted and beat Ms. Brooks in a bikini contest at Turning Point on December 10, 2006, by wearing a SpongeBob SquarePants bikini. Young continued his feud with Robert Roode and Ms. Brooks, with Ms. Brooks trying to get Young to join Robert Roode Incorporated. Finally, at Against All Odds, Ms. Brooks seduced Young into signing a contract with Robert Roode Incorporated. This consequently sent him into a shoot angle where he was systematically humiliated every week by Roode, by having to clean toilets for Roode's own personal use, and getting illegally involved in Roode's matches. Young was forced to perform these tasks because the contract Young signed gave Roode control over his TNA contract as well, so if he was fired from Roode, Inc., he was fired from TNA as well. He eventually began to fight back the orders of Roode, in part due to the advice of a mysterious friend. On the April 26, 2007 Impact, the friend was revealed as Jeff Jarrett. Young eventually sued Roode for breach of contract and subsequently defeated Roode at Slammiversary via an inside cradle, after Gail Kim took out Ms. Brooks. At Victory Road, Young and Kim would defeat Roode and Ms. Brooks in a mixed tag team match. Around this time, Young would be billed as from Freedomland, USA, a reference to Young being free from his contract with Roode. On the August 2, 2007 Impact, Roode had Young tarred and feathered on national television in the Impact Zone. On August 8, on TNA Today, Young commented on the humiliation he felt when he was tarred and feathered, and then challenged Roode to a humiliation match at Hard Road to Justice. Roode would eventually go on to accept the challenge begrudgingly. Roode won the match, but Gail Kim came to Young's aid. Roode attempted to attack her, but accidentally knocked Ms. Brooks out instead, causing her kayfabe injuries. Roode retreated up the ramp, leaving a semi-conscious Ms. Brooks to be tarred and feathered by Young and Kim for fun. When Adam "Pac-Man" Jones joined TNA, Young was desperate to get an autograph, but ended up getting attacked by Ron Killings and spray-painted by Pac-Man. Young started teaming up with Shark Boy on a consistent basis, nearly winning the #1 contenders spot to the Tag Team Championship. Young was Judas Messiah's opponent in his official debut match, and was badly injured despite Shark Boy's rescue attempt. On the October 4 edition of Impact, Young faced and defeated James Storm in a gauntlet match when he reversed Storm's sleeper hold into a pin. At Bound for Glory, Young won the 15-men fight for the right battle royal by pinning Robert Roode with a small package to win the first round. He was eliminated from the tournament in the second round after being pinned by Storm. From there, Young and Storm engaged in a storyline which saw them compete in beer drinking contests, most notably at Genesis, where Young took Storm's World Beer Drinking Championship belt after Storm passed out. Young defended the belt on the last Impact, before turning point in a 60-second speed drinking contest and won, but was assaulted by Storm. He went on to defeat both Storm and the Angle Alliance, the latter as Samoa Joe and Kevin Nash's replacement partner for Scott Hall in matches at Turning Point. Super Eric and feud with the Main Event Mafia, 2008-2009. On the February 28 edition of Impact, Young lost the Beer Drinking Championship in a ladder match to James Storm. Young then participated in a feud with Relic, losing to Relic on Impact. This then led to a match at Destination X with Young teaming up with Kaz to defeat Relic and Black Reign in a tag match. It was at this pay-per-view that Young debuted a new superhero gimmick under the name Super Eric, which was supposed to be his alter ego. At Lockdown, he and Kaz won the Cuffed in a Cage match to earn a future Tag Team Championship match. On the April 17 Impact, Young, who left the match and returned as Super Eric, and Kaz won the World Tag Team Championship, but later in the night were stripped of the titles due to Young not admitting he was Super Eric. On the May 1 Impact, he teamed up with AJ Styles, who was desperately looking for a partner backstage, and won against the Rock and Rave Infection. He and Styles went to Sacrifice, as part of the Deuces Wild tournament to crown new tag team champions, but lost to the eventual winners the Latin American Exchange. Young started a gimmick where he would look around the streets of Memphis, Tennessee for Elvis. The gimmick took a hiatus at Slammiversary, after Awesome Kong attacked a fake Elvis imposter. He revived the Super Eric gimmick on the July 17 Impact, and joined Curryman and Shark Boy as part of a Justice League parody, called the Prince Justice Brotherhood, which was at the same time making fun of the former ring name of TNA wrestler Abyss. At Bound for Glory 4, Super Eric competed in a Steel Asylum match, which was won by Jay Lethal. On the October 30 Impact, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe created a stable called the TNA Frontline, which was a group which formed a faction of younger wrestlers to oppose the Main Event Mafia. This group included wrestlers like Eric Young, Jay Lethal, Consequences Creed, Petey Williams, ODB and the Motor City Machine Guns. His character evolved as well, as he was no longer paranoid and began showing confidence and leadership abilities. He also stopped being startled by his pyrotechnics. On the November 13 Impact, Young defeated Sheikh Abdul Bashir to win the TNA X Division Championship after Bashir shoved TNA official Shane Sewell to the mat, leading to Sewell attacking Bashir, which gave Young an opportunity to hit the Death Valley Driver on Bashir and pin him. The following week on Impact, however, Young was stripped of his X Division Championship due to Sewell's interference, and the title was awarded back to Bashir. Young was awarded a championship match against Booker T for his TNA Legends Championship but lost due to the interference from Sharmell. At Final Resolution, Sewell once again helped Young defeat Bashir for the X Division Championship. Due to the controversial ending of the match, he was stripped of the championship by Jim Cornette, who set up a tournament for the vacant title. Young defeated Bashir in the first quarter-final match of the tournament to move on to the semi-finals. He then lost to Alex Shelley controversially after Chris Sabin interfered to see the Motor City Machine Guns face off in the final, which was won by Shelley. On March 20, 2009, Young appeared on Danny Bonaduce's morning radio show on WYSP in Philadelphia, where it was announced that the two of them would wrestle each other at Lockdown. Young badmouthed Bonaduce and slapped him twice in the face before being pushed out of the room. At the Lockdown pre-show, Young defeated Bonaduce. After the bout, Bonaduce attacked Young before Rhino came to the ring to aid Young and then hit the gore on Bonaduce. The World Elite, 2009-2010. Young began to show frustration over losses to the likes of Sting and Jeff Jarrett. On the May 28 Impact, Young turned heel after attacking Jarrett, who had just defeated him in a King of the Mountain qualifying match. The following week he confronted Jarrett and made implications to him paying more attention to wrestling than to his daughters, just like his father, which led to Jarrett slapping him and starting a brawl. The following week Young's good friend Jeremy Borish confronted him in an interview, which resulted in Young slapping JB down. At the Slammiversary pre-show, the heel turn was signified even further when he walked out on his tag team partner Rhino in a match against the British Invasion of Doug Williams and Brutus Magnus. His rivalry with Rhino would continue until Young defeated Rhino after a distraction from Rhino's protege Jesse Neal. He would then be chosen by Kurt Angle to be the special guest referee in a three-way match where Angle faced Jeff Jarrett and Mick Foley. Throughout the match he would perpetually slow count all of Jarrett's pinfall attempts, and at the end of the match when Angle locked the ankle lock on Foley he ordered for the bell to be rung even though Foley did not tap out or pass out. After the match, Young got beaten down by Jarrett. On the July 23, 2009, edition of Impact, Young apologized for his crude remarks and personal issues with Jeff Jarrett, and wished Mick Foley best of luck in his match against Kurt Angle that night for the ownership of TNA, and stated, "If you lose TNA, I lose TNA. If I lose TNA, I lose everything." Foley allowed Young to join the team of AJ Styles, Daniels, James Storm, and Robert Roode to face the British Invasion, Kiyoshi, and Sheikh Abdul Bashir in a 10-man tag team match. However, in the conclusion of the match, he turned on the TNA Originals by hitting Styles with a spike pile driver and allowing him to be pinned. Eric Young then became leader of a new faction named World Elite, consisting of himself, representing Canada, Bashir, representing Iran, Kiyoshi, representing Japan, and the British Invasion, representing the UK. The following week, Young helped Doug Williams and Brutus Magnus win the IWGP Tag Team Championship from Team 3D. On the August 6 Impact, it was revealed that Kurt Angle and Eric Young had made a deal to turn the main event Mafia and the World Elite factions into one super faction. That same night Young debuted a new look, shaving his head and wearing new attire in a match where he defeated Daniels. On the September 10 edition of Impact, World Elite recruited Homicide, representing Puerto Rico, into their group, turning him heel in the process. On the October 1 edition of Impact, the alliance between World Elite and main event Mafia came to an end in an all-out brawl between the two factions. At Bound for Glory, Young pinned Kevin Nash in a three-way dance, which also included Hernandez, to win the TNA Legends Championship. On the October 29 edition of Impact, Young made his first title defense, losing to Bobby Lashley by disqualification. After the match, Young renamed the Legends Championship to the TNA Global Championship and claimed he would not defend it on US soil or against any American wrestler. On the November 19 edition of Impact, Kevin Nash congratulated Young on outsmarting him the previous month and joined World Elite. On January 27, 2010, Young lost the Global Championship to World Elite teammate Rob Terry at a house show in Cardiff, Wales. Since the beginning of 2010, World Elite has not appeared together, and the only sign of there still being an alliance between its members, apart from the British Invasion, has been Young teaming up with Kevin Nash on the January 21 edition of Impact, in a losing effort against the Nasty Boys. The Banned and Mentally Challenged Gimmick, 2010-2011. On the February 11 edition of Impact, Young started showing signs of a face turn after standing up for Kevin Nash after the band of Scott Hall and SYXX Pac had turned on him the previous week. The following week Young and Nash brawled with Hall and SYXX Pac, and on the March 8 edition of Impact, Young defeated SYXX Pac in a singles match, solidifying his status as a face. At Destination X, Young and Nash faced Hall and SYXX Pac in a tag team match, where the band's TNA futures were on the line. In the end, Nash turned on Young and helped the band pick up the victory, which finally gave them contracts with the company. On the March 29 edition of Impact, Nash offered Young a spot in the band, claiming that what happened in Destination X was just business and nothing personal. Young refused the offer, and in the main event of the evening, teamed up with Rob Van Dam and Jeff Hardy to defeat the band in a 6-man tag team steel cage match. At Lockdown, Nash defeated Young in a steel cage match. On the May 3 edition of Impact, Young turned heel once again by turning on Team 3D and joining the band. The following week Nash cashed in his Feast or Fired contract and teamed with Hall to defeat Matt Morgan for the TNA World Tag Team Championship. Nash named Young one-third of the champions under the Freebird rule. At the June 14 tapings of the June 17 edition Impact, the band was stripped of the Tag Team Championship, due to Scott Hall's legal problems. The following day it was reported that Hall had been released from his contract with TNA. On the June 24 edition of Impact, Young and Nash decided to part ways, as Nash intended to go after Hogan, whom he blamed for what had happened to Hall and Waltman, and did not want Young to get into trouble for it. At the July 12, 2010, tapings of Explosion, Young made his return to singles competition, losing to Suicide. In the finish of the match Young took a bump on his head, and on the July 29 edition of Impact, he re-emerged as a face, returning to his comic relief roots with a gimmick of a mentally challenged person, teaming with Orlando Jordan and costing him their tag team match against Inc. Incorporated, Jesse Neal and Shannon Moore, after throwing a mannequin in the ring, which he had first tagged into the match. The following week Young's antics provided a distraction, which cost Jordan his match against D'Angelo Dinero. Young kept teaming with Jordan the following months, appearing exclusively on Explosion, before returning to Impact. On the October 7 live edition, where they defeated Inc. Incorporated, after a low blow by Jordan. However, after the match Young announced that they were forfeiting the match due to the finish and suggested they set up a rematch at Bound for Glory. In storyline, Young's mental issues made him completely unaware of Jordan's bisexual orientation and interest in him. At the pay-per-view Young's antics cost him and Jordan the match against Inc. On the November 4 edition of Impact, Young and Jordan were featured in a segment, where they tried to get help from a specialist to improve their relationship with one another. This ended up being Fritz's final appearance for the company on his old contract, which expired shortly thereafter. On November 12 it was reported that Fritz had re-signed with the promotion. Young and Jordan returned to Impact. On December 16, defeating Generation Me, Jeremy and Max Buck, in a tag team match. Prior to the match Young appeared with the old TNA World Heavyweight Championship belt, which had been thrown away by Immortal, when they introduced the newly designed version of the belt. The following weeks, Young kept walking around with the belt, claiming to be the World Heavyweight Champion. On April 17 at Lockdown, Young and Jordan were unsuccessful in becoming the #1 contenders to the TNA World Tag Team Championship in a 4-tag team steel cage match, which was won by Inc. On the May 12 edition of Impact, Young took part in a #1 contenders battle royal. After eliminating TNA Television Champion, Gunner, Young jumped out of the ring and left the arena with his title. On May 17 at the tapings of the May 26 edition of Impact Wrestling, Young admitted that he had mistakenly taken Gunner's title and agreed to lie down for him in the ring, but ended up double-crossing him and pinning him to win the TNA Television Championship, the title formerly known as the TNA Legends and Global Championship, for the second time, which made him the second person to hold the title under all three of its incarnations. On July 10 at Destination X, Young teamed with the returning Shark Boy to defeat Generation Me in a tag team match. As the new television champion, Young started a storyline, where he claimed that the title could only be defended against television stars, making a challenge towards American Gladiators alum Matt Morgan and defending the title against TNA producer and former cast member of the Wonder Years, Jason Hervey, in a backstage assault, before embarking on a several-week-long trip to Hollywood to find Scott Baio. The trip culminated in a comedy segment on the August 25 edition of Impact Wrestling, where Young pinned Baio to, in his mind, successfully defend the television championship. Young returned to in-ring action on the September 8 edition of Impact Wrestling, when he successfully defended the television championship against Robbie E. After another successful title defense against Robbie on the October 27 edition of Impact Wrestling, Young was attacked by both Robbie and his bodyguard Rob Terry, which led to him announcing that he was going to bring Ronnie from the television show Jersey Shore to face them the following week. On November 1, Young became the longest reigning TNA television champion in history by breaking the previous record of 167 days, held by Rob Terry. On the November 3rd edition of Impact Wrestling, Young and Ronnie were attacked by Robbie E. and Rob Terry, which led to a tag team match the following week, where Ronnie pinned Robbie for the win. On November 13th at Turning Point, Young lost the television championship to Robbie E., following interference from Rob Terry, ending his reign at 180 days. On December 11th at Final Resolution, Young failed to recapture the title from Robbie E. in a rematch. Teaming with ODB, 2011-2013. On the December 22nd edition of Impact Wrestling, Young teamed up with ODB in the Wild Card Tournament, advancing to the semifinals after a win over Anarchia and Shannon Moore. The following week, the team was eliminated from the tournament by Magnus and Samoa Joe. After this loss, Young would pursue a storyline relationship with ODB, and the two would begin a feud with Angelino Love and Winter. Young and ODB defeated Love and Winter in a tag team match on the January 26th edition of Impact Wrestling. On the March 8th Impact Wrestling, Young and ODB defeated Gail Kim and Madison Rayne to win the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championship, making Young the first male wrestler to have held the title and the first wrestler to have held all of TNA's exclusive tag team titles, the NWA World Tag, TNA World Tag and TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championships. After the match, ODB accepted Young's marriage proposal. Young and ODB made their first title defense 2 weeks later, when they defeated Mexican America, Rosita and Sarita. Young's and ODB's wedding ceremony took place on the April 12th Impact Wrestling. 3 days later at Lockdown, Young and ODB defeated Rosita and Sarita in a steel cage match to retain the Knockouts Tag Team Championship. On May 13th at Sacrifice, Young was defeated by Crimson in a singles match. Afterwards, Young took a hiatus from TNA to film his upcoming Animal Planet program. During the hiatus, Young and ODB became the longest reigning Knockouts Tag Team Champions in history by surpassing the Beautiful People's reign of 141 days on July 19. Young returned to TNA on the August 30th Impact Wrestling, reuniting with ODB after her match with Madison Rayne. Young made his in-ring return on November 11th at Turning Point, teaming with ODB to defeat Tara and Jessie in a non-title mixed tag team match. On the following Impact Wrestling, Young was defeated by Jessie in a singles match. The following week during the TNA Turkey Bowl, Young pinned Jessie in a three-way match, which also included Robbie E. and forced Jessie to wear a turkey suit as part of the Thanksgiving theme. After the match, both he and ODB were ambushed by the Aces and Eights, and they proceeded to injure Young by hitting his exposed ankle with a ball peen.